Alright, what's up YouTube? Welcome back to another edition of Sonic Rising's No Frills Moto Vlogs. So, it is Thanksgiving Sunday here in Canada. I thought, hey, what a better way to enjoy Thanksgiving than go out and do a video. Because it's beautiful, it's a little bit chilly, but it's Canada, so yeah, that's why I have all my gear on. So today I want to talk about something which I can't really believe I'm going to do, because this topic has been around for so freaking long that I can't believe it's still an issue. Back about 5 years ago, I did a video on this topic, and I found out last night, I was looking at some YouTube videos, and there's still a ton of confusion about this. And the topic is counter steering. There's still a lot of people out there that are making videos or wanting videos made, or people that are confused as shit as to how counter steering works. So this video I'm going to discuss counter steering, hopefully put this to bed so that you guys can try and understand why a motorcycle does what it does when you're counter steering. This is not a hard concept to understand. The physics behind why it does it, on the other hand, is. If you can actually, or if you want to actually know the physics behind counter steering and what causes the bike to lean to the right when you put pressure on the right handlebar, i.e. force the front wheel left and your bike leans right. If you want to understand why it does that, then you need to take some pretty advanced fucking physics classes. Oh, I can't talk. The physics behind it is extremely complicated, okay? The reason why is because counter steering works on the principle of gyroscopes. So if you can go online and look up how a gyroscope works, then you'll understand counter steering. But I'm not going to explain that. For one, I'm not a physicist, and two, it would be boring as fucking hell. But what I am going to explain to you is counter steering works on two principles: the gyroscopic principle and Newton's law of motion, his third law of motion. Mostly, I personally believe it's mostly the gyroscopic effect. But all of Newton's laws of motion, there's 3 of them. If you want to know what they are, look those up. They are obviously going to come into play because we're moving. So, Newton's law that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, I believe plays a part in this while the gyroscopic effect is taking place. So here's basically how this works. The front wheel of a motorcycle is a big gyroscope, okay? It is revolving around a center axis, and it's creating centripetal force. Now if you look at a gyroscope and you have a gyroscope spinning in front of you, it's dead straight up and down, spinning, because that's where it wants to be. Now the forces at work here with a mass spinning around an axis and gravity, its effect on gravity and how gravity affects it, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're getting into here, okay? Well, basically the principle is this. If you take a gyroscope that's spinning and you put pressure on one side of that gyroscope, so pretend it's on an axis or an axle, you press outwards on it on the right side, what's going to happen is that gyroscope is going to lean over. It's going to lean from one side to the other, okay? The same as a motorcycle will when you put pressure on your handlebars. So if I have a gyroscope in front of me and I'm looking at it and it's spinning, and there's an axle going through the gyroscope, and I push on the right hand side of that, just give it a little pressure, what's going to happen is that gyroscope is going to tilt. If I push on the other side, it's going to tilt the opposite direction. That's the nature of gyroscopes. That's what they do, okay? Like I said, if you want to get into the fucking physics of it, you're gonna have to Google the shit out of that, because I can't explain it to you. But what I do know is that's what happens when you apply that kind of pressure to a gyroscope. So, you're doing exactly the same thing on a motorcycle. So if I put pressure on my right handlebar and push out, my bike is going to lean to the right, just like that. If I push it to the left, it's going to lean to the left. Now, you don't have to apply pressure all the way through a turn. You just have to start. You have to start the gyroscope turning. So once I apply pressure, what's going to happen is that gyroscope is going to take its effect, and then the bike is going to lean, because the gyroscope wants to get back into its most comfortable position. All right? And we're talking about fucking like all kinds of mathematical equations and formulas and shit, and reasons why the gyroscope wants to get back to a happy place. But all you need to know is that because of the gyroscopic effect, that's what, oh shit, this is gonna suck. No, not as bad as I thought. Because of the gyroscopic effect of the front wheel and the way that gyroscopes work, that's what's causing your bike to lean. There is no such thing as, Jesus Christ, I picked the wrong road to come down today. There's no such thing as having to lean your motorcycle yourself to get it to turn, okay? Your bike turns because of countersteering, because of the gyroscope. There's no more to it than that. There's no other way to turn a motorcycle. There's people out there that say, well, I don't countersteer. Well, bullshit, you do fucking countersteer. You just don't realize you're doing it, because you can't steer a motorcycle any other way than countersteer it. If you try and lean your motorcycle, like I can lean off my motorcycle like this, look, the bike is still fucking straight. The bike didn't move because I didn't put pressure on the handlebars. Now some people say, well, I lean and the bike turns. Well, if I lean like this to the left, guess what? I'm inadvertently putting pressure on my left handlebar here because I'm leaning off, and that's making my bike countersteer. So whether you realize you're doing it or not, you're doing it. Because if you don't countersteer and you try to take a turn, you're gonna keep going straight and you're gonna be in the ditch pretty fucking fast. So you can argue with me all you want that you don't countersteer, but I'm telling you, you do. And the next time you go out on your motorcycle and you think you're not countersteering, pay attention to actually what you're doing. You'll find you are. So anyway, to sum up, what's happening here is it's more complex than you think it is. But you don't need to understand it. If you want to understand it, by all means, go take a physics class or look it up on Google and get the fucking shit bored out of you. And unless you understand physics, like at least high school physics, you're not gonna understand what the fuck they're talking about. I don't do physics at all, man. Like, I'm not a physics kind of guy. I like physics, I've never taken physics classes in high school or anything. I was more of a biology kind of guy. But even the actual principles of a gyroscope are very complex to like university students that are into physics. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about why it happens. Just worry about the fact that it does happen. And that's all you need to know. But you know what? People get caught up in this countersteering shit when there's really no need to. If you rode a motorcycle, if you rode a bicycle when you were a kid, you already fucking know how to countersteer. You already know how to do it. You just don't know. You don't realize you know. So once you start that lean, you don't have to continue pushing on the handlebar. Once you've achieved the angle that you want, the bike will stay there. So if I push and I'm leaning, all of a sudden I don't have to push anymore, because the bike is going to want to straighten the tire up. But if you're leaning, now you're turning, right? So to straighten back out again, you counter steer in the opposite direction. Or in most cases, depending on how fast you're going and all this shit, the bike will right itself. So that's it. Like, there is no argument, because there are people out there that are arguing this counter steering thing, like saying that it's a myth and it doesn't work, and you know, you don't have to counter steer. Yeah, you do. You absolutely have to counter steer, because if you don't, you're gonna go straight forever. And I hate to tell you that there's only, you know, the sure things in life. People say there's no sure things in life. Well, physics and math are sure fucking things. Those are proven sciences. And I can tell you, a gyroscope works because it's physics. It doesn't do what it wants to do because it decides, like, hey, I'm gonna do this today. No, it's physics, man. So yeah, it works. Counter steering works 100% of the time. There's never ever an occasion where counter steering will not work. Even at slow speed, your bike is still counter steering, but the input, the amount of counter steering that it's doing is so slight that you don't even notice it. Right? Now you'll get to slow speeds and you'll be like, okay, well, I got to turn my wheel left to go left at extremely slow speeds. Well, absolutely, because the effect of a gyroscope is increased the faster that it's spinning. So at very low speed, you're not going to see the effects of counter steering, but they are still there. They're just not measurable or noticeable to you as a rider. So I know it seems confusing to some people that why you would turn right to go left. Well, it's just that. It's just the gyroscopic effect, people. That's all there is to it. No more, no less. It's just physics at work. And you don't have to understand. You just need to accept what's going on. Just accept it. So you can make any comments you want about this. If you were a physicist or you were extremely good at physics and you understand more than I do about gyroscopes and how they operate, feel free to comment on that. But all I know is that they work. You know, that's all I know. And that's what's going on with your motorcycle and how to turn it. See? Gyroscopic effects, turning. I'm not leaning. I am completely straight. All I'm doing is putting pressure on my handlebars. Very slight input pressure. Once I apply that pressure, the bike starts to lean. No more pressure. Look, the bike is still turning. Right? I can put more pressure and turn even more. But once your bike is leaned over to where you want it, it'll stay there all fucking day until you give it another input command to straighten out or to turn the opposite direction. But 99% of the time, guys, you don't even realize you're doing it. You're just doing it. You're just steering. You're like, hey, cool, I'm steering my bike. Well, yeah, you're counter steering the fuck out of it is what you're doing. You just don't realize you are. Okay, enough about that. Fuck. I can talk all day. Alright, that's it. I'm gonna go home and fucking cook a turkey because it's that kind of day. Thanksgiving and all. So, peace out. Have a good one, guys.